Welcome to the Friday edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 178, The Nature Show. I have the windows open. You're going to hear the birds are tweeting because it's a nice 75 degrees, no humidity here in Connecticut. You get any weather reports down there, George?
Well, it's a nicer 82 degrees with no humidity. Folks do come to Florida, spend a great deal of money, and be tourists.
Tourists.
It's what's good for America.
Oh, jeez. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And today's May 8th, 2015.
Welcome to Frivolous Friday and Anglican Unscripted. Every once in a while, George and I like to have fun on camera, and we save that for Fridays. All the other fun you see on camera, that's not official. This is the official fun we have on Fridays. And, George and I are going to go through a big transition in the next week or two. Our kids are coming home from college. For me, Victoria graduates from UConn, and she'll be home for a week or two before she goes off to her new job in Pittsburgh. And basically, my living room transforms into a 4-foot deep dorm room for that period of time. And George, this is going to be your first time where the kids move their dorm rooms back home. How's that working for you?
Well, it's quite an extraordinary feat. I mean, Kevin, we don't have 4 feet. We only have about 3 feet of clothing and hair ties and pieces of paper and magazines strewn across the entire length of the house. Yeah. From I didn't know there was this much crap in like a 10 by 10 student's dorm room. I don't know how they could cover a 2,000 square foot house with detritus.
It is interesting because when Jill and I first got married, we kept a neat and tidy house. And we started with puppies. If we can raise puppies, we can raise kids. So we had 3 dogs and for a couple of years. And we thought, we can handle kids. And we thought we could be able to stay clean and have a clutter-free house. Our first child, Victoria, broke us of that dream within 2 years. We've lived in clutter ever since. And we're looking for the day when our third child, Benjamin, graduates college and we can have a clean house again. Or we'll be too old to clean it ourselves. So something will work out. It's amazing how much crap they bring back, isn't it?
Well, not only am I is my heart, my sight offended by the piles of girls' underpants. Rather, I'm having an existential crisis. My daughter Laura got an A in statistics, and I'm thinking, is this truly my child? Has she become a Scientologist or been kidnapped by aliens or something? I mean, what has happened to this girl?
I think it's time to have
this
a blood
beautiful,
test.
Sweet, normal girl who goes off to college, and she got an A in statistics and is the top of her class in psychobiology. I'm thinking, what happened to youth? I mean, I'm starting to play Frank Sinatra songs in the background about the changing lifestyle, changing ages of life. I mean. Mm-hmm. I can still remember when I could still do her homework. It's gone, Kevin. It'll never happen again.
Yeah, once they added letters to math, I was out. Forget it, no more. Let's move on to a little bit of news. It's a frivolous Friday because Justin Welby and Catherine Jefferts Schori were generous enough to provide us with some entertaining fodder that we can provide to you, the viewer. We kind of, I don't want to say complain about their leadership over the last couple of years. We're not satisfied Anglicans under the audacious headship of Justin Welby and you under Catherine Jefferts Schori, the Queen. And so when they do something right, we are behooven to let people know. And both Justin Welby and Catherine Jefferts Schori pulled the rabbit out of the hat on the same week, basically at the same time, and we're going to let the viewers know. First, Justin Welby.
Justin Welby surprised everybody by being on the right side of the issue of anti-Semitism and persecution of Christians and Jews around the world. See, the Church of England has just gotten a terrible reputation over the past few years because some of its members are so aggressive in the divestment campaign to punish Israel for its treatment of the Palestinians. And there's a priest that you and I know, Kevin, who we've met at the GAFCON meetings,
Sure.
who has gone to meetings held in Iran that talk about Jews almost in virulent Nazi-like terms. And Justin Welby gave a speech this past week to the Board of Deputies of British Jews, and he apologized for the behavior of some of his clergy. He apologized for the rising tide of anti-Semitism. So not only was on the right side of Israel, contrary to the political intellectual culture of Britain, he also spoke up about Christian persecution, saying that of the 38 Anglican provinces that he's in the world, 24 of them are experiencing active persecution. Now, I'm not talking about the sort of persecution we have in the United States, but I'm talking about Buddhists in Ceylon and Muslims in Malaysia and Pakistan, and Sudan, and Nigeria, and Kenya, killing Christians.
Yeah, here in America,
Hindus in India.
Yeah, I mean, in America, we experienced kind of our first terrorism thing last week, where we had the Muhammad cartoon issue with Pamela Geller down in Texas, and the reality is it's much bigger outside of this country. Here, they don't like cartoons. They don't like it in France. In the rest of the world, they don't like you to hang crosses from your churches. They don't want you to go to Sunday worship. Offending a Muslim seems to be easier elsewhere, George.
From a church perspective, Kevin, I'm just amazed by the dog that didn't bark over this Garland, Texas shooting.
Yeah, and this is the other story about Catherine Jefferts Schori.
Well, as soon as the report of two Muslim terrorists, one a convert to Islam, the other a Pakistani immigrant, tried to shoot up a free speech event in a Dallas suburb, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times all decided to pick on the sponsors, particularly Pamela Geller, for sort of inciting violence. And you had CNN talking heads like Chris Cuomo, who evidently went to law school, but I don't know which law school he went to.
Same one Obama went to.
He's saying that free hate speech is forbidden by the Constitution. No, it's not. But all of a sudden, the victim is being attacked for being obnoxious. Now, whenever MSNBC says something, half the Episcopal House of Bishops, their sermons in the week that follows, all are taken on cue from that. And I can't find a single Episcopal bishop or who's gone along with the conventional wisdom of the liberal media on the Garland, Texas shooting. They're on the right side of history.
I got to say, the HLB and Catherine Jefferts Schori have not condemned Pamela Geller, and that is the right side of history. Here in America, we have a Constitution, we have a Bill of Rights, and in that Bill of Rights is the First Amendment. The First Amendment says, first, religion shall be protected, then free speech shall be protected. And for the Episcopal Church or most other churches not to complain about it, I am doing one of these, because all you have to do is start backing away from your protections and you're giving them up. So kudos to Justin and kudos to Catherine. You can applaud too. Don't. You get all right. We don't do it often.
But it's just so shocking, because the Vatican's newspaper, L'Osservatorio Romano, had a whole page saying how terrible it was that Americans are allowed to say unkind things about Islam. Gavin Ashenden, who's one of our regular contributors for Anglican Ink, wrote a very, very powerful piece on the Labour Party, which lost the elections now that the vote's been counted.
There is no Labour Party anymore in Scotland or Europe, but go on.
But the Labour Party's leader, Ed Miliband, said he wanted to criminalize Islamophobia. If you say something that a Muslim finds offensive, that would be a criminal offense, according to the losers in the election. And we're just so lucky living in the United States to be in a culture and a country where you have every perfect right to make an idiot of yourself. Just look at the Westboro Baptist people. I mean, I think these people are hard, obnoxious, evil people, but still they have a right to be hard, obnoxious, and evil, and I can't shut them up by just using government coercion.
No, you don't. And that's the amazing thing about the truth and the light. The light does shut them up. and the truth we speak does shut them up. There's really
And,
no, you know,
and even to top it off, Kevin, this past week at the Washington National Cathedral, they had a service commemorating the 100th anniversary of the genocide of Armenian Christians, where they had the president of Armenia and the leaders of the two main Armenian churches in present. Vice President Joe Biden was there, and Catherine Jefferts Schori read one of the prayers. Again, the Obama administration has refused to call the Armenian genocide a genocide. And yet Catherine Jefferts Schori is, again, on the right side of history. She's telling the truth. I mean, Kevin, get out your skates. Hell is frozen over.
Well, I'm about to stand up and give a standing ovation. I mean,
what's that line from Ghostbusters? Cats and dogs living together.
Yeah.
The ends of time is here.
Well, we're going to have to go to Revelation 6 really quick, where we have the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets. If you guys hear a trumpet from the sky, just know, Justin and Catherine are right, and it is now the end times, as George has pointed out. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because we're going to transition now to, it's Eric. I can't do the acronym pronunciation correctly, but the Anglicans and the Roman Catholics get together and they have their own acronym. How do you say that, George?
Archic.
I'm sorry.
The Archic, like Arctic, but not with no T in it.
Well, and I keep thinking of the frosty relationships because of what happened last time around, where they said, well, we just don't agree with you on homosexuality. So the Arctic, I will go with. You can say Arctic if you want. But next year, or the next meeting, they're going to have in the Arctic. But whatever. So they had their meeting, they got together, and I'm watching 2 of the oldest churches get in long, drawn-out conversations about how much they like each other and are willing to work together in the future, and yet there's still no resolution after all these years to the conflict of the denominations.
Well, they had another meeting. This time it was at a villa south of Rome, and 9 Anglicans, 9 Roman Catholics. And at the end of it, David Moxon, the retired Archbishop of New Zealand, who was given a plum little job by Rowan Williams before Williams retired to run the Anglican Center in Rome, he gave a little press statement saying that we agree on 80% of the doctrinal issues that we discussed. Well, how much DNA do humans and chimps have in common? It was at 96%, 97%. And we are a little
2%, yes.
And we're a little different than chimps. And to say that we've got 80% agreement, well, what is it that we disagree on?
Sure.
Morality. Justification, works, things that, in some respects, though, Kevin, you've got tired old white North American liberals and European liberals from the Episcopal Church and the Church of England talking to tired old white liberals from the Catholic Church in Europe. It's the 2 dying sections of the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church talking to each other. Cardinal Casper famously at this last Synod on the Family said, we smart Catholics, we don't pay any attention to the Africans. Now, that you could say that about the Anglican world as well.
That's right.
And so the official dialogue between Anglicans and Catholics is a dialogue between the 2 weakest, most dispirited, dying groups. You don't see Africans on either side of these teams.
No, and the irony of that is very palpable. And the elephant in the room at these meetings has to be GAFCON. There's a growing element of Anglicanism that represents 86%.
There's a herd of elephants in this. Okay.
80% of the Anglican Church is not represented in Arctic.
Well, one of the things that we need to remember is that Arctic has been going on since the 60s, early 70s. The 60s it was introduced. It began the meetings in the early 70s.
Right after LSD. Go on.
And here's a little bit of history for you from your resident know-it-all on Anglican history, George Conger. After the consecration of Gene Robinson as Bishop of New Hampshire, the Catholic side of the Arctic team said to Rowan Williams, Frank Griswold can no longer be the Anglican chairman. We will not meet with Frank Griswold because of what he's done over the gay issue. Mm-hmm. And Frank was pushed out of Arctic. And That was about what was that? 2003. It was 12 years ago. We've now reached the point where the gay issue has become almost normalized in some portions of the Anglican world. The women bishops have become normalized in the Church of England, and the Catholics at this point, they don't care anymore. Not and why can I say that? Well, they don't view this as a serious dialogue. It's not something that actually will go anywhere and have consequences. 15 years ago, they could say, look, we're really getting someplace, but we've got this one guy, Frank Griswold, whose presence really prevents us from reaching meaningful accord on vital issues of the day. All that's over.
Yeah, well,
Completely over.
yeah, they took Roland Williams out, and they still never reached any accord on the vital issues of the day. And that just shows the effectiveness of Arkic. Now, this is probably the most ironic part. They're coming to North America next time. They leave in Rome. They're going to go to Canada. That's
Toronto.
Toronto, just north of here. The Church of Canada has
Way north. I mean,
of you, yeah.
Toronto isn't that where they have these little early warning radar stations in case the Russians come over the North Pole? It's that far north.
You live in Florida. If I drive out of my driveway, by the time I get to second gear, I'm hitting the border. So it's a little different perspective for a Florida guy. Canada's really close, but they're going to go to Canada. Canada has an ASA of maybe 55,000 people. They've been dying. They're losing 10% a year for umpteen years. Right here in America is one of the fastest growing provinces, the Anglican Church of North America, which has about 103,000 ASA meeting every week. The elephant, or what did you call them before? The group of elephants?
A herd.
A herd? Isn't it a gaggle? I'm not sure.
Covey, a convocation of elephants.
Convocation of elephants is going to be heard loud and clear because you're coming to ACNA soil. If you want to talk to the largest population of Anglicans in North America, give a call down to Archbishop Foley. He'd be glad to help you in knowing what Anglicans around the world need, want, and are willing to talk about.
But Kevin, I think we need to point out that Arkic is just window dressing. Mm-hmm. It gives something to do for the professional second-tier Anglican and Vatican functionaries. Its works and words right now have no impact, no import on the conversation. We've reported in print in Anglican Ink in the past about visits of Bob Duncan and the ACNA's Director of Ecumenical Relations, that's Bishop Ray Sutton. Mm-hmm. They have been very active. They were very active with Pope Benedict. Mm-hmm. They have established relations. I don't know to what extent, but we've seen the photos. They've been to Rome with Foley Beach to visit the Pope, and Eliud Wabakula has visited the Vatican. There are discussions going on. They don't tell us anything anymore. That's a real shame. But,
well, I'm sworn to secrecy. So, yes, GAFCON is in informal talks with the Vatican. So is the ACNA. But
we know that we're not breaking any secrecy because we've got the photos and we've published this story over the past year. But I think what we're trying to say what I'm trying to say with this is that real dialogue, real conversation is taking place on a meaningful level.
Sure.
And Arkic is not that meaningful.
No. Basically, all the good stuff happens behind closed doors. If there's an open door meeting, it's a yawner. Okay, well, we're off to our weekend. We just wasted 18 minutes of your time. Go out there. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. You got something else?
We got something else. Remember, Kevin.
Yes.
The Ordinariate is also on the horizon, too.
Yeah, that's true.
So the Anglo-Catholics, how should I put this? Anglo-Catholicism was hit below the waterline by the formation of the Ordinariate. Mm-hmm. So now, today, Forward in Faith in the UK, just the UK, folks. I know our viewers in Texas will blow a gasket. Forward in Faith in the UK, in its latest issue of New Directions, their magazine, gave the congratulations to the new women bishops. Their leader has backed the gay agenda plan for the Church of England. Forward in Faith is not your mother's and father's Forward in Faith in England anymore.
Somebody better send some medication down to Texas. Yeah.
So there's, in other words, all of these things are in the creation of the ordinariate was a devastating blow to Anglo-Catholicism in England in particular. In some, not as much in the United States and Australia, but all these things are packaged together so that the real dialogue that's taking place right now is no longer between conservative Anglo-Catholics and the Vatican, because those guys have gone over to, I don't want to say the dark side.
No,
they've crossed the Tiber.
Yeah, that's called. They took a deep plunge into the Tiber.
So, but real dialogue is taking place right now, but it is taking place between evangelicals and Catholics. And actually, I think that will be the most fruitful way forward, because though we have different doctrinal issues, things like the Pope and the Immaculate Conception, things like that, that are not going to get fixed in dialogues, but we do have a share of common morality. And the last time ARCIC met in Hong Kong, one of the things that they said quite loudly and clearly was Anglicans and Catholics do not have a shared moral viewpoint.
Okay, we just wasted 2 more minutes of your time. I know it's golf weekend and stuff like that, but George has an important point. I think it's time for GAFCON to start a Catholic ordinariate where we start, oh, come on, how hard could it be? I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and I don't want a Catholic ordinariate. And today, you've been watching, for your sins, you have been watching episode 178. You've lost 20 minutes of your life. You're never going to get it back. I'm George Conger. I'm worried about my daughter, Laura. She got an A in statistics. And I'm thinking, is this I mean, this has never happened to any member of my family. I remember sweating through statistics when I was in college. Just as the worst experience of my life. And they're having earthquakes in Connecticut.
Hold on, I got a cat. What the hell are you doing? Get out of the box. Go. Get.
Let's start over again. Oh my goodness.
Well, we got